areas, I don't know whether Helen mentioned in her question education, but in some areas it isn't necessarily the problem isn't going to be solved by putting more money into it. But on your question, as we go on down on meeting these Graham-Rudman targets, there just isn't a lot of, quote, excess money, unquote, floating around there.
Not for the foreseeable future, not for the rest of your first term?
Well, look at the Graham-Rudman targets that face us. I don't want to hold out to those that want to rush out and spend a lot more money the hope that that is going to happen. We've got some tremendous economic problems that have to be solved, because the best answer to helping people, if you have to divide it, have to quantify it, the best is to have a job. And the best way to have the climate for a job is to have a sound economy. And to our foreign friends here, I'd say one of the things that would be the best guarantee of that would be to get our federal deficits down. It would also help us with investment. And that is the best poverty program, a job in the private sector. And so I had a letter from a distinguished senator before I left, because he had read about possible defense cuts, a reduction in defense budget, saying take that money and spend it for a cause that he felt was very worthy. And I had to write him back and say, look, that isn't the way it's going to work. That isn't the way it's going to work. Yeah.
President, you spoke in your opening statement about the need for a greater role for the 35-nation group known as CSCE. You know that in Rome, Chairman Gorbachev raised the possibility of a new conference, Congress of Europe. I understand that didn't come up in Malta.
No, it didn't.
It did?
No, it did not. You're right.
But even though it didn't, it's an important suggestion, and I wonder how you feel about it.
Well, I feel about it that I have, with respect to him, an even more important suggestion, and that is that we sign a CFE agreement. There's something that's very practical, that's very much within our grasp, and I think that should be our prime objective for that kind of a meeting. Yeah, Carl.
Chairman Gorbachev said yesterday that you and he agreed in your talks that the Malta meeting marked the end of the epoch of the Cold War and entering a new period. Do you agree with him that the Cold War is over?
Carl, let me tell you something. We're fooling around with semantics here. I don't want to give you a headline. I've told you the areas where I think we have progress. Why do we resort to these code words that send different signals to different people? I'm not going to answer it. I can well, good. He can speak for himself in a very eloquent way. But in terms of, if you want me to define it, is the Cold War the same, is it raging like it was before in the times of the Berlin blockade? Absolutely not. Things have moved dramatically. But if I signal to you there's no Cold War, then it's, well, what are you doing with troops in Europe? I mean, come on. Yeah, Maureen.
A question
Your
from
name, Maureen,
a
sir?
Soviet journalist. I'm from Izvestia newspaper.
Name Maureen, go ahead.
Yeah. What is, Mr. President, what is your reaction to Chairman Gorbachev's proposal that NATO and the Warsaw Pact should not remain just military alliances, but rather become military political alliances, and later on just political alliances? Can you envisage in the future any form of cooperation between the two alliances?
Well, I can see an economic interaction, and I hope that NATO will, along with the EC and along with OECD and these other areas, will take more of an active east-west role in the economy, in helping each other in terms of systems. But he did not press that point with me at all. I think he envisions an active U.S. presence in Europe, one way or another. Maureen, yes.
Mr. President, after 5 hours of talks on Saturday, despite extremely treacherous seas, and you even had trouble getting to the talks, you got back in your launch and went back to your ship. Mr. President, why did you do that? And
because I wanted to go back in time to receive him for dinner.
But didn't you understand you were risking the summit, number one, and number two, what do you think Gorbachev thinks of your judgment?
Maureen, you've been to Maine. Don't tell me that little chop was risking anything. Actually, hadn't had that much fun in a long time either. But the fact that we got out there and the seas kicked up even more, the winds were up to 60 knots. That's a big, 60 miles an hour, 50 knots, which is a big wind. And along with it came a swell, and along with it came a chop. But we didn't miss a beat. In fact, we had a very relaxed evening out there, and then showed up, and we got 8 hours of talks in. So that was a non-issue. And I didn't feel there was any risk in getting into a little safe launch like that and going back out to the ship. It was sheer pleasure, really. Hot dogging? No. Well, you know, these charismatic, macho, visionary guys, they'll do anything. Yeah, yeah. This is the last question. I got to go home.
Mr. President, a few moments ago, you questioned whether Gorbachev had any influence at all over Danny Ortega. Yet in his news conference yesterday, Chairman Gorbachev indicated that there may be an opportunity now for peace in the region. Did he indicate to you in any way whether, one, he had any control over Ortega, or two, whether there was something in the works that may lead to some kind of peaceful political...
No, he didn't, but I think he didn't indicate whether he had any control over him. What he did indicate was that there were going to be free elections. And I told him, that's fine, have those free elections, but they got to be fair. You have to have access from for the minorities to minority parties and the opposition party, the UNO, to get in there and participate, full access. And so we had a little discussion of that, but that was about it.
If he indicated there would be free elections, that in turn would indicate that he does in fact maintain some sort of influence of Ortega. And then wouldn't you hold him further responsible to stop that flow of arms in El Salvador?
Well, I'm not sure that, I don't see quite the logic that if he says there's going to be a free election, that means he controls them. I'm unclear on your...
How could he assure you that there would be free elections?
I don't think he assured me there was. He just says free elections are scheduled. And I told him how important we felt it was that they go forward. I am told that our congressional delegation, made up of some who've been rather generous in their comments about what the Sandinistas were about, or at least were less than support historically for the Contras, were on this delegation, and that the delegation was denied the right to come in and take a look. And I told him this is counterproductive. This doesn't help. And so, but I don't want to imply from that he can just snap his fingers and have Mr. Ortega. I think he was do what he said. I think he was impressed. I may be wrong, but I think he was impressed by the message from Oscar Arias. And I asked Arias if it was okay to tell him of the call, and he said, yes, I hope you will. So when I said this man, this Nobel Prize winner down there, with whom we've had some differences, though normally we're in pretty good sync, appeals to you to use your influence to stop the exporter revolution, it may have made an impact. I really do have to run. It's supposed to be out of here at for those who are flying with us at 1:15, and it's now 14 of. No, wait a minute. 12 of. What's the big hand here? I'm getting a little tired. Thank you.